If you're an Apple user, these glasses might be all you need. Welcome back to the channel. So I have something cool to show you today here. Now, instead of just showing you all specs in the video, there's going to be a link in the description. You can get all those specs. I kind of wanted to take the approach and show you why Apple fans or Apple users of iPhones and Macs and all those type of devices are really going to like these. Okay, here's a little teaser right now of what these glasses can do. There's a whole bunch more of this coming later in the video, and just take a look at this. This is one of the reasons you might want to pick this up over an Apple Vision Pro, especially for the cost difference. In any case, I'll have all of the information in the timeline where you can skip to each section if you want to see a little bit more of that. Okay, so what do I have in my hand right here? Well, introducing, this is going to be the VITURE LUMA ULTRA XR AR glasses. This is offering a true AR experience now on these things. Pretty cool. So that means full hand gestures here. It's also a full 6 degree of freedom, what they call 6 degree of freedom, where you can move closer to the screen, further from the screen as well. That's actually built into this thing. And it's all done through either your Mac or your Windows PC, or they actually have a built-in headband or a headband you can add as an extra option over here, which we're going to talk about. But that really makes these things different, that 6 degrees of freedom. And I'm going to be showing you how that works. One thing to note really quickly, they did send these for free to me. Now, I didn't get paid by them, and they're not looking at the video before it posts. This is all my opinion. For starters, let's go through some specs on these things. Now, I'm going to go through this quickly, I promise you. So this actually has a full private 152-inch screen. If you can imagine that, 152-inch screen in front of you. It looks like it's about 3 meters away, but it's beautiful, beautiful colors, very high resolution. And what makes it so clear? Well, these glasses actually have dual Sony displays with 120 hertz, 1200p on each eye. So that's basically 1900 by 1200 in each eye. And they call it like 4K. Now, it's not 4K, actually. It's obviously 1900 by 1200 per eye. But when you combine that with the clarity of these things, these are some of the clearest ones I've actually used. It does really look like 4K. These are also some of the brightest ones on the market as far as these glasses as well. They're up to 1500 nits of brightness, so I usually keep them about 50%, but for people that like it really bright, they have you covered. Okay, so built into the arms of the glasses over here, there are 2 different speakers here, and I'll show you some close-ups of those speakers. The sound is phenomenal. It's by Harman. You can see those right there. And overall, they're saying it's basically 50% richer than their previous pairs. It also sounds a lot louder. Now, it sounds louder to me when I'm wearing them, but people around me can barely hear it if you actually keep the volume down. In fact, my wife can't even hear it if I keep it at a reasonable level. So long story short, they do a good thing with isolation in the sound here, but it's really good sound, and it's a lot better than their prior pairs in the past. Like their previous pairs too, they actually have a button on the stem over here, and it does an electrochromatic, change on the lenses there. So you can actually see through the lenses, and if you actually hit that button, it'll black everything out. So if you want to be in a completely isolated environment, you just hit that button, everything gets blacked out, case closed. Now, the true difference of these Ultras here, the Luma Ultras, is going to be the camera setup, all right? They not only have a camera in the middle here, I'll show you a picture of that. There's actually a camera behind there, but they actually have 2 down-facing cameras on both ends of the actual device here, or the ends of the lenses. You can see them there. So one on the right, one on the left, and that allows you to do actual hand gestures, which we'll talk about later. So these are kind of the first of the kind for that, and they do a really good job at it. Obviously, we're waiting for some software, so a couple more things, more software and stuff to come out, but from a few things I've tested here, it's actually really good. The Luma Ultra also have a microphone built in, so you can go ahead and talk to AI, or you can take calls and stuff with this. I think that's a really good feature as well. And as far as wearing these with contacts or without contacts, when I wake up in the morning and I have no contacts, these will work for me. When I put my contacts in, they'll work also. Why is that? Well, they have these little dials over here. You can see them over here. And actually, these dials can actually give you up to -4D myopia adjustments, all right? So what that basically means is you dial in your setting, and you can actually adjust how clear it is to your eyes. So when my contacts are in, I have one setting. When they're out, I have another setting, but I can adjust these little dials here, and it works phenomenally. If you do want to get prescription lenses, they also offer those. I'll show you kind of a really quick picture here. They have a couple different selections. Overall, I didn't even need them. Now, my vision, I think, is -2.0 as far as my contact. That's my prescription. So for all it's worth, I don't know if you have terrible eyes if this is going to work, but for me, it works perfect. Okay, the glasses on the stems here also adjust up and down, and it's actually to help you get the fit right so the actual screen looks right to you. It's also got a number of nose pieces it comes with, and definitely try that in. Make sure you get it dialed in perfectly in your face. A lot of people will say, well, I can't see the bottom of the screen or the top of the screen. Well, you really have to dial this in with all these different adjustments. Once you do that, it should work fine. Okay, let's talk about why Apple users might want to pick this up over the Vision Pro besides price, which we'll touch on in a little bit. But realistically, for starters, if you just want to hook this up directly with a USB-C cable into any device you have, like your Apple phone, you can actually see the full screen in all its glory right there and use the actual Apple phone as a controller. Really cool. You can also hook it up to your iPad and your Mac. And just by hooking it in directly, you're going to have this 150-something inch screen in front of you at 3 meters away. You can watch all of your content and YouTube and all that stuff lying in bed. It's really good for that. I mean, obviously, if you travel a lot in a train or a plane or an automobile, not driving, of course, these things work great for that kind of stuff if you want to even get a little bit of work done. But I mean, there's a whole bunch of other things you have to download here that actually make these things so much more powerful, which we're going to talk about. But just for that normal viewing experience on a plane or a train, these are top notch. Now, these are actually $599. Let's just talk about the price here. Now, there's some cheaper options, which we'll touch on later as well. But when you compare this over to something like the Vision Pro, it's obviously way cheaper. But it's not going to be as powerful as that. But it might be exactly what you need. That's what we're going to talk about here, because besides just watching content, which is great for gaming, which we're going to talk about later as well, there's a couple things in here that it does really well for Macs if you have a Mac, and I'm going to show you that. All right, so you really get the true power of the glasses after you download a free app from them. It's called Spacewalker, and you download this for the Mac, and then you install it. Once you have that installed, it's actually going to bring up a screen here, and it's called Spacewalker. You can see it right here. I'll show it to you. But what this allows you to do is it allows you to put up your Mac display. Let's say you hook this up to your MacBook. It'll actually let you put it up in full glory, but in multiple screens. So you can do 3 screens across, 3 screens up and down. You can do massive wide screens. So for getting work done, productivity, this is incredible. And I'm going to show you the example right here in a second. It's unbelievably cool, right? So just keep in mind that this is going to be a little bit jittery. It's almost impossible to film this. I figured a way to do it, and I'm going to show you. It's actually clearer that I see it than you're going to see it, and it's actually less jerky for all it's worth. But let me go ahead and just show you exactly what this program does called Spacewalker for your Mac. If you want to get productivity stuff done, this is the tool. Okay, so now we're in the Spacewalker app here, and I have the 3 different screens up at the same time. So imagine what I'm looking at. I'm looking through the goggles. It's hard to film this. It might be a little bit jittery. But in front of me, sitting right in front of me, there's these 3 giant screens. Look at this. It's pretty incredible. And what I can do here is, obviously, sorry for the orientation, as I move my head, it's going to move. But you can move over any windows you want from the main screen over to the secondary screen just like this. So you basically have 3 different working screens in front of you. It's awesome, all right? You can go down and open up apps down here just like you could on your normal Mac. Very, very crisp. It's not coming across as crisp as it is. Here's the menu for Spacewalker. You can see all the different settings. You can change the refresh rate. Here's all the display settings, which we'll get into in a second. You can also do brightness. The theme. Now, the theme is interesting. You can go ahead and change the blue, and it says blue water. So behind there, instead of just being black, you can actually put a theme back there if you just don't want to see kind of black space back there. All right, what else do we have in here? So actually, let me go ahead and just shut this off. So the next thing we have in the Spacewalker, here's the settings here. You can move the display closer or further away, but actually, you don't have to do it this way. Since we have that 6 degrees of freedom, you can actually zoom in just by moving your head. I'm going to show you that in a second, so hold on one second. You can recenter the app right here as well. So obviously, if you get off-centered, you can recenter it in here. It's also got a whole bunch of other things in here. Let me just see here. Just all these different settings. You can go through here and fool around with them. I'm not going to go through all of them for this video, but it's really kind of cool. You can mirror displays there. That's actually what I recommend doing, and it'll actually work just like this. So anyways, the beauty of this is, let me just show you. Since it's got 6 degrees of freedom, I'm just moving my head in, and I can look really close at the screen. The screen is kind of fixed in space, so I can move closer, and if I move closer, I can see things close up. So I can actually go and identify smaller details on the screen. If I'm moving left over here and I look up, up in the corner or whatever, I'm going to see a lot closer what I want to see. So it actually moves because of that 6 degrees of freedom. It's really, really cool here. All right, we're going to now 2 displays here. Actually, no, this is the single display. I just moved it to single display. So this is just one display floating in space like this. And again, if I was to move way away from it, it would get way smaller. If I zoom in on something, it's going to get actually a lot closer to me. Very, very cool. Now we're going to do, we just did that one, 3 displays. That was the first one I showed you. Here's another one you can do here. This is 3 stacked displays. So if you want this, you can go ahead and have a display up here. Take a look. You can move this up here. So if you move your head up, if you move your head in the middle, and if you move your head down, you can actually move this wherever you want. And again, just acts like 3 different monitors in that orientation. All right, the next one over here, let me just see here. One of my favorites here is going to be this ultra-wide panoramic. So we'll let this load in. It takes a second to load in. Once this is loaded in, you have this giant panoramic screens. Take a look. Let me actually shut this down just so you can see the screen here, because I actually have my video in here, up here, taking the whole screen up. But you can imagine this is a giant screen. You look to the right, you look to the left, and it's going to give you all of this space on one screen. You can watch movies in here and things like that. It's pretty phenomenal. And like I said, watching movies in this thing is pretty crazy, and it's just really nice. And then the next, I think the last one in here, there's actually a portrait, landscape portrait mode here as well. So if you click on this, you're going to have, let's just let this switch. It takes a couple seconds as you do this. Look at that, maybe 2 or 3 seconds. But again, you're going to have landscape over here. Take a look, then portrait, and then landscape. Actually, I believe it's the opposite around, right? That's landscape, portrait, whatever. You get the idea. Okay, so what do you think about that? Now, is it perfect? No, let me just explain. It's really clear, right? But it's not a 5K screen, so it's not going to look like a 5K screen on a Mac. So if you're thinking it will, it won't, but it's really, really clear. So things like developing emails, browsing the web, having multiple things up on 3 different screens, and just getting some work done is really, really good. Now, the cool part, again, is when you can zoom in on things. You can actually, since it is that 6 degrees of freedom, you can actually go back or go forward, and the screen's going to come closer or further from you, and then you can look into the corner and peep in things and stuff like that. So it's phenomenal for that kind of stuff. But if you're actually doing really, really detailed work where the resolution has to be the highest, maybe video editing and stuff like that, or photography and stuff, this might not be perfect, but I've done it. I've done some editing at it and stuff like that. It's worked great for me. But I mean, I can tell you, like I said, you might be used to that very, very, very fine 5K. This is not it, but it's really close. And you just have to get used to it. You have to get all the settings dialed in. Sometimes it'll move weird and you got to get this setting right. But I got all mine dialed in. It's too much to go through here. But once you do, I really do like them. Okay, so I just showed you how you connect to your Mac. And of course, you're going to have that cable going into your Mac. So you're kind of tethered to it. If you don't want to be that, they actually have something called a neckband, and I have a box over here. I'll show you some close-ups of this. It's a $299 accessory, so it is going to make it quite a bit more expensive. But this thing's really cool because this goes around your neck. You actually put it around your neck, and there's a full Android computer built into this thing, all right? So you hook this up to the glasses, and then you can walk around anywhere in the house. You're going to have, I'll show you some examples here, but you're going to have all your apps in front of you. You can go ahead and browse the web. You have multiple screens around you. It does a whole bunch of cool things in here, but think of it as an Android computer connected to you, so you can get into your Google account, you can browse the web, anything that's tied into that. Plus, they have some apps in there, which we'll talk about in a second as well, that are pretty cool. But overall, this kind of, lets you walk around the house and everything without actually being tethered to anything. Now, it is an extra $299. You do not need this, but it does open up a lot of possibilities. Now, the Neckband also has that Spacewalker app already pre-installed on it, which is kind of cool once you actually turn it on. Now, keep in mind, once you get that up there in the glasses, you have this 6 degrees of freedom. So this is where, the coolness comes in. First of all, you can download an app on your phone, and you can control it by pointing it at it. It's really hard to show you, but there's like a laser pointer, and you can go ahead and, open up apps and move the screens around. And I'll kind of maybe show you an example here, not from me, but just from their examples. That's really cool. You also have a trackpad. You can use your finger, but you also have that 6 degrees of freedom. So you can put your hands out. You can do hand gestures, and you can actually, expand the screen, make the screen smaller. You can actually, click your fingers, and it's going to go ahead and launch the different applications. And that worked phenomenally for me. It's one of the first of its kind like this, just built into glasses like this, not the huge goggles. I don't know how they did it, but I think they're one of the first to do it in the small glasses like this, where it can track everything on your hands, and it just works really, really well. But that 6 degrees of freedom when you actually have these on is really cool, because let's say you put 3 screens in front of you, you can walk right up to it and be like this close to it, or you can walk way around it and it's way back further from you, or you can walk around it. You can walk anywhere because it's going to be, basically fixed in the room, and then wherever you move in the room, it's going to get closer or further as if it's actually physically there, which it isn't. So that's where the 6 degrees of freedom come in. So if you want to watch something or you want to stand up and work, you can have 3 giant screens in front of you and actually take a look at all 3 of them at the same time by just turning your head or walking around the room, and it actually works good. Also in the neckband over here, they have a couple applications that they kind of pre-installed as well. There's one that actually will show you 3D content, so 3D movies and stuff like that, really cool. There's another one, they actually created a game. Let me just show it to you here. This kind of shows you the power of it, and it was hard for me to film. I couldn't film this really, so I'm going to show you an example of somebody else, but it allows you to use your hands, and actually you basically take a slingshot with your hand, let it go, and it was made for Halloween, but you smash pumpkins and things like that, and it's really cool, and I loved it. And they also had another thing where you could actually grab different planets and bring them into you and take a look at them up close. Now, all those things were pre-built. So this is what this is kind of lacking right now. We need more software like that, but overall, the start is really phenomenal. If they can get more developers on board, I think it'll be really cool. Now, another standout feature of these, now you don't even need the neckband for this. Just say you just bought the glasses only. It's actually something called Immersive 3D. So it's another little application. You have to download, obviously I talked about the Spacewalker app. You download this Immersive 3D app as well. It's a very, very tiny app. Once you get that all set up, anything you put on your Mac and you have the glasses on and you can connect into your Mac or your Windows Phone or whatever you want to install. I think the Mac obviously is where I did it. You can go ahead and install that, but any of your personal photos, personal videos, become 3D. And not only that, even games. So if you start gaming on the Mac, it'll actually be in 3D, like Sonic the Hedgehog, all in 3D. I watch my own movies in 3D, and it's phenomenal. It looks like as if it was created for 3D. It uses some kind of algorithm inside the glasses to code everything. And if you want to see like your photos from your parents and stuff, it makes it look so realistic. It's incredible. And there's nothing really to do except for just download that app. And once it's on, you go into that app, you bring the glasses up, and you can see all of your content in 3D, including gaming, which is crazy. And the gaming is one of the coolest things ever. Even though it's not 100% perfect, sometimes it'll miss a little thing here and there. You get lost in it instantly. It's really fun to play. All right, since I'm a Mac channel, I'm leaving this to last, but this might be the biggest reason you pick these up if you're a gamer, all right? So you can connect these obviously to your iPhone, your iPad, your Mac, and play games right on here in massive screens. It's phenomenal. You can use the Spacewalker app and play games on all three screens, however you want to do it. I love it, all right? If you have like a Switch, this is Switch 1, Switch 2 compatible. It's also Xbox and all those type of things. I mean, it's perfect for gamers. Now, keep in mind, depending on the system you have, you want to go to the website because sometimes you need some accessories. They require some accessories to connect to certain consoles and stuff like that. On their website, they do a really good job of it. You type in exactly what you want to connect to, and it's going to tell you what you actually need to buy. So just make sure you do that. Just don't buy the goggles. But overall, if you just want to hook this up to your Mac and play a game on your Mac, you can do that. But if you want to play in the Switch, the Switch 2, or you want to play maybe on an Xbox, just check the website first. But it's incredible. You can sit on your couch, look up, and play massive screens, massive games, and it's just really cool. So that's probably the number one reason you pick this up. But since I'm more of a Mac channel and an older crowd, you don't really need that with these glasses. I mean, it's just a bonus for us. For everybody else, it's probably the main feature, but it's just something I wanted to mention because that's obviously why you'd normally buy these. Okay, let's go through some cons now of this, and there's a couple of them here. I want to definitely touch on them. So number one is going to be the expensive one because obviously the glasses are $5.99. Now there's some other options. Let me just show you the options right over here. Take a look. So if you don't need the 6 degrees of freedom and the cameras and stuff like that, you can go ahead and just get a cheaper pair here. They start a little bit cheaper. You can see all the different options here. But with this one, this is the Ultra, so that comes with all of the different functions here. But it's really going to be the price, and also if you add like the headband and then you add some of the other accessories, they actually gave me for the gaming, they gave me gaming controllers. Take a look over here. 2 brand new great gaming controllers. One's for the Xbox. One's got the Switch layout. One's got the Xbox layout. You can pick these things up if you want, and I'll show you some pictures of those. They got, different charging things and all these different accessories you can buy, so it can add up. But even if you do spend $1,000 on this thing overall, I think compared to $3,500, obviously as long as you know what you're getting into and it's going to do what you want, I think it's a good value. Another quick con is basically in the 6 degrees of freedom. Sometimes when you're walking around the screen, if you walk past it, it'll basically unpin where the screen was and maybe move it somewhere a little bit different. They're working on this, I heard. It doesn't happen all the time, but something to note. A third con is what I mentioned before. There's kind of a lack of these kind of specialized apps for the 6 degrees of freedom and using your hand gestures and stuff like that. It's super cool if you want to navigate all the Google apps and the Android apps, all that kind of stuff. But obviously, once they get some of these apps built in, like that planetarium one or the little game that I showed, that you saw earlier, it'll be phenomenal. But right now, there's a little bit of lack of apps. I guess another little kind of con here is these things can drain some battery here. So actually, there's not actually a battery built into the glasses. It uses power from the device it's connecting into. So when I connect into my Mac over here, obviously it doesn't matter because it's connected into the wall. But if you connect this into your phone, you might expect to get, 3 or 4 hours on your phone of screen time. If you connect to a Mac, like a laptop, you might get 8 hours, something like that when it's drawing the power, stuff like that. But the main thing is when you actually get this neckband or whatever they want to call it right over here, this thing actually, it does, since this connects directly into the goggles, this has actually got a battery built into it, but you can see it's not that big. So this only lasts maybe about an hour and a half, maybe somewhere in that range, depending on what you're doing. So while you're not tethered with this and you want to maybe work, sitting down on the couch with nothing tethered to you except for this, you obviously, could run out of battery in about an hour and a half. So for all it's worth, I just wanted to kind of point that out in case you think this is going to last 4 or 5 hours. It just doesn't. And then the last thing is not really a con, but in order to get the most out of this, you really have to sit down and understand the products. You want to download all the software, go to their website, learn how to use it. You can get frustrated really quickly, but once you have that aha moment, like I said, with the 3D immersive videos or watching, playing the game with 6 Degrees of Freedom, all of that kind of stuff, it takes a while to figure it all out. But once you do, you're going to be like, ooh, this is pretty cool. Now I see what's going on here. So spend the time, go to their website. They have a whole bunch of resources and get everything ready for you, and you'll be happy. All right, so overall, do I think that the VITURE LUMA ULTRA XR AR glasses is worth the price? Now, for $599, I totally think it is, based on if this is what you want to do. If you want to actually get work done in front of you with multiple screens, that's the main thing, or game on it. I think it's totally worth it. You got those additional features like the 3D features, super, super cool, but not worth, obviously, that much money. When you compare this to a Vision Pro, the Vision Pro is way more capable, obviously, but a lot of people only need exactly what this product gives you, right? So if you only need these features, you might as well try it out. It's $599, or get a cheaper version. It does 90% of the stuff. You just have, you're going to still get the all the different screens up and all that kind of stuff through the Spacewalker app. That's all going to work on the cheaper glasses. You're just not going to get where you can move back and forth from the screen, which is a nice feature again, but it's kind of a luxury feature. So should you pick one up? Well, only you can justify that. And like I just mentioned, it is a luxury product, all right? But some of us need some luxury in our life every once in a while, and it doesn't have to be $3,500. It might only be $599. So if you can justify that, it's something you may not actually need, but it's something you may actually want. I do recommend it. And again, I got all the different stuff they sent me. I want to thank VITURE for this. I think the product's pretty good for sure. It's really cool to use. And once you start using it and understanding the product, give it a few days, give it maybe a week or so. I think you'll like it. We will talk to you in the next one. Peace.